Dajjal is to impersonate the Messiah, it follows therefrom, listen carefully, in order for him to convince Banu Israel that he is indeed the Messiah, the first thing that he'll have to do would be to liberate the Holy Land for the Jews. Then they'll be convinced. The second thing that he'll have to do would be to bring the Jews back to the Holy Land. Then they'll be convinced. The third thing that he'll have to do would be to restore a state of Israel in the Holy Land. Then they'll be convinced. Golden age is coming back. The fourth thing that he'll have to do would be to cause that state of Israel to become the ruling state in the world, and someone should tell this to George Bush. Because he doesn't know anything about it. It would do the President of the United States of America a lot of good if he could sit down and listen to this lecture. And then when the state of Israel has become the ruling state in the world, then Dajjal must rule the world from Jerusalem in what would appear to be a rule which is eternal and therefore the end of history. When Dajjal has done that, then he can rub his hands and he can say, mission accomplished. The Prophet ﷺ, after the change in Qibla, suspected that the Jewish boy in Medina was Dajjal. He took Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu with him. You know Umar? You know Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu? Huh? About whom he said, if there were to have been a prophet after me, it would have been him. But there is no prophet after me. So he took Umar with him to go and question this Jewish boy, whose name was Ibn Sayyad. And having questioned him, the boy was rather impertinent in his answers. So Umar was annoyed. He said, "O Messenger of Allah, give me permission, I'll cut off his head." Today, of course, they see the terrorists. That's their polluted thinking. The Prophet said, "No, Umar. If he is Dajjal, you can't kill him. And if he is not Dajjal, then it would be sinful to kill him." Implicit, therefore, in that answer is that the possibility exists that he could have been Dajjal, and therefore the Dajjal was already released. Dajjal is already released. In the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, after the change in Qibla. So the door is closed now for Banu Israel to earn mercy. Now we come to perhaps the most important hadith of the evening. When we address the subject of Dajjal, inshallah, on Wednesday night at Masjid Abdul Halim Siddiqui, we'll deal with the subject in greater detail. But listen to this part of the subject now. He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when Dajjal is released, he will live on earth for 40 days. One day like a year, one day like a month, one day like a week, and the rest of his days like your days. This hadith is in Sahih Muslim. Okay. And so at the end of his life on earth, his day will be like our day. And so he will be in our dimension of time. So we'll be able to see him, a Jew, a young man, powerfully built with curly hair and so on. But where would he be on earth at that time? Answer, of course it has to be Jerusalem, ruling the world as the head of the state of Israel, ruling the world from Jerusalem. would he be when he's released on earth? In a day which is like a year. Question 1. Question 2. Where would he be when his day is like a month? Question 3. Where would he be when his day is like a week? I tell you, not even the University of Singapore could answer that question. Do we have answers to these questions? Yes. Praise be to Allah, who sent Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, who has given us the answer to question 1. And that answer helps us to answer question 2, and that helps us to answer question 3. So now sit down and relax. I'll narrate an event. And then the Prophet told the people, sit down in the masjid. I have something to say to you. Tamim al-Dari came to me and told me something about Dajjal which confirms what I've been saying to you. So this is true. And then the rest of it comes out of the lips of the Prophet himself. Tamim al-Dari got on board a ship with some 40 of his companions. And then a storm came and blew the ship for a whole month. Singapore, have you studied geography? If you're on the western coast of Arabia, western coast, and you get on board a ship, you have to be either in the Red Sea or the Mediterranean Sea. I mean, somebody in Cape Town told me Atlantic Ocean, but forget that. You never went to school. Either the Red Sea or the Mediterranean Sea. But if you're on the Red Sea and a storm comes and blows your ship, will you take a whole month before you reach land? No, not the Red Sea. So we eliminated the Red Sea because the storm came and blew the ship for a whole month before they reached land. So you have to go all the way across the Mediterranean Sea. When they reached land, it was an island. And when they got on shore, they were confronted by this very hairy beast or creature. So much hair on the body of this creature, you couldn't tell which side was head and which side was tail. Like sometimes in Lower Manhattan, you can't tell who is a man and who is a woman. At least some Singaporeans are smiling. But there's some, I can't get them to smile, I don't know what's wrong. And then the beast spoke, and the beast said, I am Dajjal. No, sorry. I am Jassas. Jassas means spy. Spy. So you get a good job in the internet now. I'm spy. So this is an island which has a PhD in spying, an espionage, an intelligence work, you know, James Bond kind of stuff. And then Jassas said to Tamim al-Dari, there is someone waiting to see you out there, pointing to a monastery. So a Christian island. When they went to the monastery, they met this young man, powerfully built with curly hair. But he was in chains. His hands are chained to his neck, and his feet are chained together. And this man questions them. Among the things he asks them, you remember I told you, probably another 50 years? Remember? This hadith helps us to understand. He says, is there any water left in the Sea of Galilee? The Sea of Galilee in the Holy Land is the biggest source of drinking water for the entire area. So they said, yes, plenty water. He said, I don't think it will last for long. Strange. Because tomorrow at Darul Come at 5 o'clock, we'll find a hadith of Sahih Muslim that when Gog and Magog are released, the first of them will pass by the Sea of Galilee and start to drink the water. And by the time the last of them pass, they'll say there used to be water here.